All right, we're back from the Tacoma Open, ladies and gentlemen. So today on this Warhammer 40K tournament recap, we're going to be going over my day one performance with the Necron Star Shatter Arsenal, giving you a quick recap of each game, what I learned, what worked, what didn't work, and simply passing that knowledge on to you because I really do believe if one of us gets better, we all get better. So without further ado, let's get into it. So you're going to see this picture right here. Very humbling of our entire team at Tacoma Open this year. We, needless to say, had a blast. And I just really want to highlight this before I even go into, the results, because at the end of the day, this is what Warhammer is about, and what makes the hobby just so much freaking fun. So hopefully if somebody sees this video and they're on the fence about getting into 40K or they just started, this is the best part. This is something to look forward to, hanging out with all your buddies for a weekend, nerding out over the game, talking about lists, matchups, bad dice rolls, good dice rolls. It is just an absolute blast. And I just, hope more people get into the hobby. I would say I was not expecting as many people to come up to me during games and afterwards as they did. That was also just very humbling for me, and all of you that came up just to introduce yourselves, even if you weren't Necron players, was just so cool of how much like these videos have helped you guys. And yeah, I mean, it just meant a lot. I think the ultimate compliment over the weekend, I think, was game 3, which I'll talk about later. But I can't remember the gentleman's name. I do apologize, but he was literally mentioning, he's like, yo, I literally got into Warhammer 40K because I saw your videos, or like I found you on YouTube. And I think that, like, with technology these days, I just think that's so cool. So overall, it was a great tournament. A lot of our team members did extremely well. Much better than last year, which was really cool to see, and just very excited to see what the next year, really just holds for all of us. So let's get into this first game. And also, I would like to say that I'm going to be linking the list down below, so go ahead and check that out at your leisure. And yeah, let's get into the first game here. So first game was against Adeptus Sororitas. And I gotta say, it has been a hot minute since I have played against this army. And I was playing against Tanya round 1. She was a fantastic opponent. I also would like to say I did not have one bad opponent this whole week, the whole weekend. It was great. All 8 games, everybody was great. So I feel really lucky there. There was really no awkward moments or rules or just like feels bad stuff. The clock never came into play. So that part was great. All right. And going into this matchup, Tanya and I were talking a little bit beforehand, and she had mentioned, she had did the narrative last year, and she was wanting to do like the competitive tournament this year. And so she's like, I'm here just to, have fun, like roll some dice, and obviously likewise, but I'm definitely more on the competitive end of things than probably, your casual player, obviously. But I think it's important, just to make sure, she was having a good time too, and not, trying to like nickel and dime everything, and making sure she was having fun, because that's what we're all here for, right? So going into this game, mainly I was looking at it in terms of we were playing a we were playing Lichpin, and this was Search and Destroy deployment on layout 1. And I would like to preface that in this tournament, I'm going to do a free plug for Art of War here really quick. Jack Harpster was talking about the Challenger cards. And if you hadn't had a chance to watch that video yet, I would highly recommend, just because of the fact that I would be the first to say, after playing these 8 games, and like I've mentioned on this channel numerous times, going second in this game right now it's too good. It is too good. I think there were multiple games this weekend I genuinely would have lost had I gone first. And that is just me being fully transparent about where I think the meta is right now. I would go on the record saying that I think the competitive meta right now, if you just not being a Necron player, but just talking out loud, I think it's probably the worst it's been since Index like Eldari days. I think mainly with the combination of how popular Knights were at this tournament and Death Guard with the combination of that and the fact with these Challenger card mechanics and going second. I think it just leads, unfortunately, to a lot of feel bad moments. But at the end of the day, this is the game that we're playing. This is what we signed up for. And here we are. So I'm going to get off that soapbox and let's talk about the games. So mainly what we're looking to do here, I'm not going to go like super in depth at each game, just kind of talking more to surface level, like what worked, what didn't work. The main game that I want to talk about is definitely in game 3, which there's going to be a lot of good insight there to help hopefully all of y'all out. So mainly what you're going to see here is really want to talk about deployment here. So the big thing with this list, what I was asking is, more long-range anti-tank threats that we're worried about. So with her sister's list, the main thing is she had a Predator right here. You have immolators that have, I think it's like 18-inch range with indirect. So usually the typical pocket where I would put flayed ones like in this corner was probably not necessarily the best option, mainly because all of this has flamers here. If I move this up, it's going to be an easy Overwatch threat. And I'm always kind of thinking about if I do draw tempting target turn 1, because that is an easy secondary to score for 5 points, that I have a way very easily to get on any one of these objectives, right? So flayed ones actually had a nice little pocket right here. And I made sure to ask this Tanya before the game, like, hey, just making sure that, if you get an advance and charge or anything like that, there's no way that essentially you can interact with this unit turn 1. She's like, yeah, you're totally good. So they're going to go there mainly just to get 5 inches if they need to get on the objective. And then race have the flexibility to go this way or this way. DDA placement, this is very important when you're playing Star Shatter, is you're thinking about firing lines. So as you can see here, this DDA can move up and cover, this firing lane right here. And then this DDA can move into this footprint wholly within and cover this firing lane here and potentially firing lanes down this way as well. And then with this list, we also have 1 DDA in reserve. So we have 3 DDAs in this list. Okay. So going into the game, it's Lichpin. We actually go first in this game, and we get Mark Assassination and Mark for Death. So pretty easy turn for me, where essentially I'm going to try to go after probably, I think, let me see, after her scouts. I didn't take a ton of pictures. By the way, the first day, these armies were like beautiful. Like look at, she was totally cool with me taking pictures of like her army, but like this is also the blast of going to Tacoma, is like some of the armies you see here, guys, are like insane as far as like paint color. It was awesome. So Tanya, if you watch this, freaking amazing job on the painting. So anyways, going into the game, mainly let's see how this unfolds here. So going into mainly my turn 1 looks like this, because I didn't really have much else to do. And I made the one of the immolators my target for Gamma, and we end up popping it with the Minears and a DDA. Okay, so pretty easy. And then we shift the race over on an advance over on the natural expansion. And they're pretty much going to just kind of exist there most of the game, just cashing me in primary and then being able to threaten the midfield later in the game. Okay, so going into, sorry, more pictures here, because the army looked really good. It looked really good. So going into kind of the mid game here, you're going to see things unfold where flayed ones are moving up, getting objectives, and it was just a tale of that. I had so much anti-tank and just long-range firepower that she wasn't able to really interact with the list in an ideal way. And I think that's what really kind of had it cascade out of control pretty quickly, because really the only long-range anti-tank she had in the list was this Predator here. And once that was off the table, it really gave me the flexibility to push, where breaking down her list, I'm like, okay, if I can get rid of this Predator and I can neutralize Vol's unit, then with the Paragon suits, I'm going to be pretty much in a good spot. And unfortunately, DDAs are like the perfect profile into this unit. And so she ended up, unfortunately, losing those assets relatively quickly here. where you're going to see kind of towards the end of the game. I mean, this was probably in turn 3. She really just didn't have much of an army left, especially with the king moving up midfield and getting indirect. I believe he spiked like really high and was able to like get rid of her the units on her home objective in like turn 2. So it really struggled to score primary, unfortunately. And then at that point, she just really didn't have enough resources left or punch to get rid of these DDAs and the Silent King in the center. And so it was a rough one. But I definitely wanted to make sure it was a smooth time for the most part, and had a good conversation afterwards and everything, and talking about maybe some things she could have done better, and going into her next game. But it was a great round 1, and definitely was good times. All right, so going into round 2, all right, we play against Wrath of the Rock. All right, the new Dark Angels detachment. Playing against Keith. Keith, again, was a great freaking opponent. He actually watches the channel and the videos, and was just very complimentary and everything. So really do appreciate that, man. If you end up watching this, I'm sure you probably will. And this was also an interesting matchup. I had not played this army before, and this is just a good thing to talk about where, I have videos on this in the past of just initially talking about, all right, let's talk about your detachment rule. Let's talk about the strats, that you use all the time. And, worrying about, okay, where are your Overwatch threats, what's your long-range anti-tank, etc. And this was a similar thing here. So we are playing Terraform, and we are also playing Crucible of Battle Layout 1, all right? Now, the biggest thing in this matchup that I'm concerned with is so with Dark Angels, is they usually don't have, they're relatively slow, and they don't have a lot of OC. So, Deathwing Knights, they're super durable and that sort of thing, but at the end of the day, that unit is only OC 5. So, yes, they can hold primary relatively easily, but that is one thing that I'm maybe trying to expose is that, and also they don't have a lot of long-range anti-tank, and that's the one thing that the Star Shatter with triple DDAs can really expose, where your long range is usually a lot more than other people's armies, and it's just a lot more reliable damage downfield, especially if they don't have any sort of lone ops or that sort of thing. So really the only units, you're kind of dissecting the list beforehand of the Predator is a very big problem, and the Vindicators are potentially a problem, but the thing is the Vindicators are only 24-inch range. And the one thing that you need to worry about with the DDAs is the fact that their platform is so durable, where a lot of times it takes 2 resources within a firing lane to get rid of a DDA. So having that knowledge, one Vindicator usually isn't able to kill a DDA. But I'll tell you what, we have some spicy stories coming up regarding this game. So I'm sure Keith is looking forward to this, because one of his Vindicators was the MVP, and I cannot wait to talk about this. All right, so going into the game, Keith is actually going first on this game. We are going second, and you're going to see here kind of a similar play pattern of deployment. So we have the flexibility to move this DDA out to cover this firing line, and then moving this DDA out to cover, same thing, these firing lines down here if we need to. And then we have the flexibility for the other DDA to come in reserve, so it can pop down here or it can pop down here. It gives you endless options, right? So going into the game, I think this is mainly the end of turn 1 for both of us. So we have Flayed Ones right here. And then they are lined up against the wall because we ended up getting Established Locus and Overwhelming Force. And so what you're going to see here, what you didn't see, I didn't take a picture of it, but so in turn 1, he ended up moving his ATV and his scouts up here, but there wasn't a way for them to move where he could stay out of LOS of the Doomsday Arc. So I luckily was able to pop both the scout unit and the ATV turn 1 to be able to get Overwhelming Force and Established Locus with the Flayed Ones. So That's what ended up happening there, why you're seeing those units disappear, which put me in a pretty good spot turn one because he got rid of like 2 utility pieces, and you're kind of forcing him to in a spot where he needs to kind of react a little bit more quickly than usual because he lost some good utility and screening pieces early. So we end up denying his natural turn one for terraform, so he's only able to get 4 points, and it puts him in a position where he actually, I think it was probably the right call, but he had a 10 brick of Terminators in reserve that he ends up actually banging a 9-inch charge to push these race back. The problem is that, obviously he is leaving the Silent King and 3 DDAs probably the next turn to be able to kill the Terminators, but he still has all of this here, right? So I think this was the glaring mistake in his game that we talked about after, which I want to keep it like on this picture here, that I would have liked to see from him, where if he's going to drop in these Terminators right here and commit to that game plan, this, I think, was the killer of where I think he could have pushed the game the other way and potentially gotten a win out of this. Because as he saw, he gave me the luxury essentially to have all of my shooting assets go after the Terminators. And I didn't really need to worry about anything over here because of the fact that this Land Raider is still so far away from anything that he can get to, where it's kind of just neutralized because I'm so far away from it. He can move the 12, get the guys out, and you'd still need like a 10 or 11-inch charge even to get to the King. And he really doesn't want to be fighting the King in combat. So I think the biggest thing that I would have liked to see from him is when he dropped in these Terminators here, he was able to push this Land Raider up at the same time and just say, hey, here's a threat overload situation. I have like 3 resources. If the Land Raider's right here, like, what do you want to do about it? And that creates a much more, I think, interesting dynamic potentially, because I definitely don't have the output to kill all of it. All right. So going into the middle of the game, so we're looking at kind of like round 2, round 3 right now. Essentially, that's what happened. So we pushed the DDAs back. We pushed the King back over this way. We lined the DDA here to get line of sight here, line of sight here, line of sight here, and then the Mineers here. So we just put everything in the Terminators, and we just got the entire brick off the table, which it was rough. I mean, mainly because the fact is now going into his turn. I mean, if you're looking at the board control, he's really far back, and he doesn't really have a good way to interact with any of these pieces. So going into the next turn, he is basically, what ends up happening? So this is what we need to talk about, this Vindicator here. This was freaking wild, okay? So Vindicator moves up, and we pre-measured this ahead of time. I'm like, hey, if you get like a minimum advance, you can totally go and shoot this DDA or something like this. He was able to move up and then like get a line on it here. So he ends up doing that. Fires Hunter Killer. Vindicator gets like a 6 on his shots, and the Hunter Killer gets the DDA down to 10, and he hands me 3 saves. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to see, and this is the DDA that was with -1 damage. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to CP reroll one of these, and I make it. So he gets 2 wounds through. And the main reason for this is because he had Bring It Down. As you can see, he had Area Denial and Bring It Down in turn 3. And I was like, all right, well, you'll need 2 6s to kill this DDA. And my man Keith bangs 2 6s to kill the DDA. I just walked with it. I'm like, oh my God, I actually did it, dude. I screamed, man. It was crazy. He was so hyped about it. It was great. So yeah, he bangs 2 6s. He actually kills that DDA. Oh yeah, right here. So the DDA was on 10. I had to take a picture of this for you guys. That was like actually hilarious. And so he kills the DDA. You can see that right here. And then we're going to talk about this now. So, so then in my turn, bottom of turn 3, I line up all of this stuff to just kill this Vindicator. It was already wounded. I think it only had like 10 wounds left or something. Do not kill the freaking Vindicator, man. So the Vindicator lives another day and is going in. So I think I get it down to like I think I only did like 4 damage to it with the king and a DD. I was like, what is even happening right now? Like this game got way more complicated than it needed to get. And so the Vindicator lives. And yeah, this is essentially the board state right now. We did some cheeky Tomb Blade stuff, which is why I love them. So we ended up actually taking his home field. One really important thing to note that I'm really appreciative of Keith, like checking his rules, is Wrath of the Rock have this strat. If you're within 6 inches of like a Deathwing Knight unit, they can just declare a charge on you if you're not within like engagement range. But if it's any other unit, it's only 3 inches. So I'm glad he checked on that, because that would have been like a massive play if these guys would have been able to actually make a charge and neutralize the Tomb Blades. All right. And the Tomb Blades were still absolutely loved them in this list this weekend. They were great. So, Wraith doing Wraith things as you'd expect, and here comes the Vindicator again. Going, oh, I guess I don't have a picture of that, but basically Vindicator comes up, he pops the Hex Mark, and he pops like something else, and then I finally kill him, I think, at the bottom of turn 4. Like this Vindicator was the MVP of the game, man. It was just crazy. So basically going into turn 5, more or less, he's looking to push up. And that is essentially the game after that, just because like with bottom of turn scoring, as you're going to see here, which is just what I really hate. Like, again, I mean, like when you're going second in this game, I feel like getting 20 to 25 point turn 5s is just so common right now. Like it's just kind of frustrating, you know, to be honest. Like it just kind of feels bad when you are the person going second. Like I hate to like gloat on that, but it is like I feel like it's definitely a problem right now with challenger cards, unfortunately. So we end up edging this game out 80 to 57. Again, Keith was a great opponent. It was a great freaking time, and now we are moving to round 3. Now I'm just going to show you the deployment here. All right, I'm going to show you the deployment before the score, because the score was the lowest I have scored in any game of 10th edition. Okay. Now, this is Dark Angels Company of Hunters. Okay. Now, I can't fully remember what this detachment does, to be completely honest. Oh, I do know. So all of his bikes, most of the bikes, are basically they can fall back, shoot and charge, fall back, and advance and charge. So they can do basically everything. Fall back, advance and shoot, advance and charge, fall back and shoot and charge, all that stuff. Okay. So they're super mobile. You can't really tag them. And their threat range is crazy. Like every unit can basically has a threat range of roughly 30 inches. Okay. So they're super fast. They are mounted, so there's no way for them to like go through walls, which was nice at least. But like, if you do not plan for this accordingly, it is going to be a bad time real quick, okay? So before I show you the score, by the way, this was still like a fantastic game. We probably spent, between the both of us, between deployment and the first turn, it was probably took us like 45 minutes to an hour, because there was just like so much thinking involved on both sides, because it was a very technical game. We were playing supply drop. This is layout 8, and this was tough because on supply drop, I got the advantage on both ends of it, where I was going second on supply drop, which is very good, and my objective on my natural expansion, as you can see here, was going away in turn 5. So his natural was burning first, so I got basically the double advantage on this mission. The only advantage I didn't get was actually going first probably against this list, okay? Now, to talk about this for a second, in deployment, because this is what you guys come here for learning opportunities, okay? So the biggest thing going into this matchup that you need to think about is, just in general, is when you play an army that you have never played before, and you need to simplify it in your head, okay? And not get too scrambled of like, okay, I haven't played this before. Like, they got all these strats and different rules, but simplifying in terms of like, okay, what is this list more or less looking to do? You're like, all right, he moves fast, and he is just trying to what they quote unquote call like jail you, right? So they just kind of just pin you in your deployment zone. And unfortunately, this was kind of the perfect synergy for him because layout 8, you can just see these staging points are just going to be brutal for me because you have these lines here and right here, right? So normally on boards, like, I mean, if you're going to be staging in the midfield, you're going to probably get shot. And he had the luxury on this layout to, really stage his bikes, right? Right here, right here, right here, and really have a grand old time projecting his threat into my deployment zone on that next turn. Okay. So I'm just trying to preface this before we go actually into the game and see what's happening here. So let's just flip over to this, shall we? So we played against Sean. Great freaking opponent. And going into this game, he was very transparent about what his army did and everything else. So I felt definitely fully prepared for it. And going into it, mainly in deployment, we're really trying to stay back. So we have Technomancer back here behind a wall, measuring out all the threat ranges, everything else. We have DDA super far back from our deployment zone. And we're basically giving him what we want to give him, which is if you want to fight a Locust Destroyer, cool. If you want to fight flayed ones behind this wall or go after the race or the Silent King, cool. I just can't have you touch or tag these DDAs, right? Now, the biggest mistake of the game was in deployment for me. I don't know if it would have changed the dynamic of the game a little bit. I don't know if it would have helped me win the game, but mainly I think the biggest error was these flayed ones behind the wall. Where I was trying to keep them safe, but I didn't really need to line them here because he couldn't really go through the wall anyway. The problem is that he had his infiltrator right here where I couldn't infiltrate off of. But I didn't really think about the world of I could have put flayed ones essentially lining this wall right here. So if we look at this in simple terms, we have a base here, 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 and here. Okay. So essentially what happens is if I keep that there, right? Also, beautiful army again, Sean. Like, this was crazy good. Like, first 3 games of the game, and dude, these armies, like, crazy paint style. So he was super cool with me taking pictures and stuff, show you guys. Good stuff. So this is why I wanted to keep this diagram up here. This is how we all learn. This is how we all learn. So if I told you this was the top of turn 1 before charges, this is the board state. This is before this unit charge right here. So what ended up happening because of that is if the flayed ones were here, it moves this unit here all the way back here. Okay? Much different situation here. Like, at the end of the day, I couldn't prevent this, like all of this getting there. He also on like, I think it was like 5 of 6 units that he advanced, he rolled a 6. It was insane. He rolled like 5 6s in a row. So they were all moving like, I think 16 to 18 inches off the line turn 1. I was like, this is literally like the perfect situation for this guy. I mean, it was comical to say the least. So going in, he charges this brick in, and it has a character in it, of course, up front. And he is actually able to snipe my techno out turn 1 behind the wall, like basically 8 inches away from the board edge of my deployment zone. Like, actually insane. Now, if the flayed ones would have been there, it would have prevented that situation. So that's why the one thing I do want to point out. I don't know if it would have like changed maybe the trajectory of the game. But essentially that's what it looked like. Okay. So going into basically, this is the bottom of turn 1. And at this point with the techno leaving, I'm like, we gotta figure things out fast. I also think I should have had all 3 DDAs on the board against this matchup. I think that was the other glaring mistake that I made. Where against a rush army, you do have to plan for going first. And if he does, in knowing that he would probably want to push. and that was my bad. And that also, I think, could have helped me push out this game, because I did end up actually killing the majority of his army. Unfortunately, it was just not enough where I literally could not score primary. So basically, we had to push up the king the next round and kind of put him in a threat overload situation now, where I'm like, hey, we have to get as much off the board as possible. So looking at the table, essentially, the king was going to be able to move. He was essentially going to be able to move up, use his shooting this way, and then charge in this way, because he's lining the wall here to be able to get max output out of the king. So we get his shooting and his melee. Okay. So this is essentially the board state going into turn 2, which we ended up killing, as you can see here on the side, a decent amount of stuff. The other thing you need to worry about with this list, or his detachment in general, is he has another 9 bikes that he can rapid ingress turn 1. So even though you cleared all of this stuff out, he's got another brick that's going to be coming on turn 2. Okay. So going into it here, you're going to see this unfold. He's going to stage up more resources, and I just cannot. I'm just straight up getting jailed, y'all. Like, it just there was just nothing. I was trying to give my best crack at it, but the race, essentially try to push up. But since we lost the techno, I mean, they're losing a majority of their durability. He has a decent amount of meltas here, and we did lose the king, unfortunately. And things were just not looking good, quick, y'all. And this was essentially the end of the game. Let me see here. Yeah, this was the end of the game. So, killed a majority of his stuff, but just couldn't kill quite enough to get him off the table and be able to get primary. So, I think going back to it, like in the original deployment, I think if I would have had if I had another DDA like right here, and having full max output turn 1 and having the flayed ones right here, I think it definitely would have been a little bit of a different game. I think at that point, I maybe could have started to push primary a little bit, at least on my natural, and have more output turn 1 to get more resources off the table, where I could try to push and win in the late game. But Sean played it really well. He exposed where I couldn't put the flayed ones, and he did a good job. So ended up finishing day 1, 2 wins, 1 loss, and then we are going to be going over day 2 later this week. So stick around for the next 3 games and how that panned out. But if you stuck around this long, seriously appreciate you watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.